I have one spirit called Elora, and she's from the Dream Makers. And one day I was feeling kind of sad and alone, and she just popped in out of nowhere. I mean, not just the dream. She was popped out. I could touch her and feel her. Now, could you see or touch? That depends on your level of perception or what the Spirit wanted you to see. But she said, because I'm like, how could you step through dream time? We had been visiting there. She said, well, we're lonely. I had lost a grandmother who I was very sad over. She had lost someone. And she said, we need to go to the Dream Makers, Dream City. It's on a parallel world. It's on another dimension. And I had read, as synchronicity goes, I had read one of Dolores's convoluted one at the end where the woman goes into the central sun and merges. It's about the God source. So I thought, oh my God, anything is, well, that's actually another hypnosis that I had, so I'll get back to her. But anyway, I was talking about the dream. The dreamer dreams the dream is in Convoluted Universe 2, when one of her clients, they're fascinating. How many of you have her books? They're absolutely, all of them. Anybody have all of them? Woohoo! Who's here for the first time? First, uno, who's here for more than once? Who's been to all of these places? Hallelujah, hallelujah. But anyway, as more of these memories came to me, and as they say, the subconscious mind contains everything. You know, when she puts people at the somnambulist train, and there's many wonderful ways. Guy Needler, History of God, in deep meditations, went up to the source. And his books are here, and I adore him. Dolores through the somnambulist trance. I went through the dream portals. There's a lot of ways to make that contact. So once I had read about the dreamer dreams a dream, some say that row, row your boat is really true. This is a dream. Back in the 70s, Richard Bach wrote Illusions. All of this could be wrong. But remember that? MGM Pictures. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So anyway, we did that. I have several, but we don't have the time. Other than Spirit said, why is this such a time to awaken? For the Aquarian awakening, we're in the dawn of the age of Aquarius. And Spirit said, we need the help of the alien brothers, elder brothers. They called them elder brothers and sisters. We need to awaken our own power and come and bless and give love and healing to each other and the planet. And that's when they were like, there's lots of different ways to do it. So after that, I had a couple visits before I had the first real official alien or whatever advanced star being. I had an angel visit at the age of 13 in my first foster home, predicted my future. And I always tell people, reading, I want you to go away feeling empowered, encouraged, psychic reading. Yes, it's nice when you get the bells and whistles and the funny stuff and the names and whatever comes through. Yes, thank you for the prosperity. It pays the bills. But I had a couple of the angel visits. I had one in my second foster home. I used to go back in the yard and, lie down and look at the sky. Remember the weeds? You just lie in the little weeds, pretend you're a bird. And I remember hearing this flapping of birds, just flap, flap, flap. And okay, I'm just dreaming, whatever. And there was the angel right in front of me. And so I'm realizing a lot of us, you are open now. There are different degrees. And you can open the doors. Let the doors be open. We are not alone. You take the word alone and you add an L to it. What do you have? All one. People say God is nowhere. You put a hyphen between the W and the H, God is now here. And in Morning Coffee with God, he said, please don't call me God, call me dog. That's God spelled backwards. My real name is I am that I am, but there's been all these horrible, atrocious things done in my name. So if you would just kindly call me Mr. Divine. So I thought, okay, I will. So after that, my first being that there's no words for her. I had broken up with a girlfriend. I used to spend time at my papaws and mamaws. They had some land. And I would go in the woods and stargaze. He had me a little bench that I'd sit on. And that's when she first showed up to me. She had actually come in a dream. Like I said, a lot of them. And she said, you're not happy because your heart is half open and half closed. And most of you don't know your soul. You haven't made that deep journey. And she said, I'm going to come soon outside of dream time and teach you about soul sharing, soul intimacy, soul merging. She said, you're so alone because you yearn. She said, we are star mates on other dimensions. So I'm sorry, folks, wife, husband, honey, whoever, you got lots of lovers on lots of planes. And then lovers, it's just a word, right? Love has so many faces. So when Rosara came, it was just, you know, it's in the story's in the book, but it was a very powerful activator. She actually went into this long ritual on her world called Astelva, many, many light years away. And she had pink eyes, little pink eyes, and very light, ethereal, like angelic hair. And she actually described this ritual where when a couple wants to share together and they're joining, they do this elaborate ritual with the birds and animals because they're a family. They have an elder, a grandfather, grandmother. They have the rose incense, the blessings. But she says what they actually can etherically, because they're more spirit than we are. You know, like light body, spirit body. We're dense, working our way up to the new earth. But she said that's where we are. And she said, imagine the sensation of having all of your chakras open simultaneously. Folks, SEX is the root chakra. Yes, May West, some is good, more is better. Well, that's fine too. It has its place. And after she described how they would lift your body, give you energy, and she said millions. On our world, the entire planet participates because we are one. I am a part of all that is. You're a part of me. I'm a part of you. We're all in this together. And then she said, to add a little humor, she says, it's far greater than sex and lasts way longer. So I thought, okay. So that was her. And then I had another one. Oh, how many of you talk to trees? Any tree talkers? Woo-hoo. Any tree huggers? Yay, what about all the above? Well, I had a star being called Izira who had come to me. She would come to me because at that point I had enough activations that I was pretty well, could just open that door on the spot. And she had a little ritual where this tree was embracing her. And I thought, what the world? I said, I actually touched her and she flinched. And she said the tree and I were almost in total oneness. She says, on my world, we join at the non-distinction level. And she said, we can do that with all life because all life has consciousness. And again, after reading Dolores Convoluted 3, where she talks about life as plants, animals, other worlds, then I thought, well, if I'm crazy, I'm not alone. And I'm starting to, you know, so that was a very interesting thing. We went on a spirit journey. She talked about manifesting as a matter of knowing and joining. It's not a thinking matter. It's a matter of the heart. And that's why those of us, you can manifest your dreams, whether you want to be a psychic, a healer, an energy, all of the above, because, you know, that's part of it. And thanks to this wonderful Ozark, Doreen Virtue, you know, Sai Baba, he came in a reading this morning. It was just, thank you, Spirit, thank you, Spirit. I went through a period where I had more activations from a shaman, and because I'm opera trained, I have a big mouth, so I might as well live up to it. And I started chanting, and I started getting, I got one group of collective souls. They started coming in as units, not just one, you know, like even though we're all connected, there's certain vibrational attractions. And they came in and chanted the entire session, and they talked about thyroid imbalance, and sinus blocks, and cavities, and prana, and sound healing. That's, I think, my next to the last chapter in the book. And I thought, okay. And then there were many, many more. How many of you have stepped into your past, future, parallel lives? Dolores is doing a wonderful group regression in Sunday in the future, where she takes us into the future. I was doing a Nostradamus preview in the 80s, when I was teaching Français, bonjour, au revoir, monsieur. And those piercing eyes that came out of that whatever put me in a stupor. I was so, and then all of a sudden I saw this woman, beautiful woman, Beverly Sills, remember Bubbles? Singing opera, color way up there, oh good God in heaven. And I got cold chills because she felt so familiar. And I said, who are you? She said, well, of course, I'm Stella Marie Bergman. Stella, that means star. Bergman is Swedish. And I said, well, who are you? She says, well, just like I'd ask a dumb question. She says, well, I'm a future you. And then my friend Janet said, you need to write a letter to your future self. I say at the end of the chapter, I haven't done it yet, but as of yet, I've taken notes. I'm supposed to mail it to the Stockholm, Sweden Opera Archives in 2063 when email's probably extinct. You know, so these kinds of things, you can find yourself going into the parallel lives, the Seth books, do a lot of that. Let me make sure I'm not going on and on because we want to get questions. I asked Jesus. I had also visits from various ascended masters. I also publicly channel a bunches of them publicly and privately. But one day, I just had picked up on Jesus in another poem I had written about Jesus agreed to do what he did for humanity as love and a gift. And I just said one day, how did you do what you do? I've just got to know. And I just saw this image. This was in the third eye, in the mind. I'm just going to read a couple of verses. And he just said, basically, write this down. It's called The Great Price. And I started it, and I said, you calm the storms. You still the winds. All clouds vanished at your command. When turbulent waters rocked boats to and fro, tranquility was restored when you waved your hand. You walked on water. You healed the sick. You asked for bread, and it came from the sky. You changed water to wine. You raised the dead. You were also a man who cried. Tell me your secret, great one, I humbly ask. To bring peace to troubled souls is my request. I want to offer hope to this world. For weary souls, I want to be a haven of rest. I'm not going to read the whole thing. He said, the road that I traveled is traveled by few. It's steep, rocky, and uphill. The path to self-mastery is a difficult path. It is the ultimate test of the will. And then we went on at the very end. I said, I was 28 years old then. I said, I have begun the journey, great one. I am willing to walk every road. I wandered in darkness until I glimpsed the light. I want to help carry other people's loads. And he ended it by saying, you can find peace after much toil. People may seek your holy advice. But if you are holy and different, it will only be because you are willing to pay the great price. So we can all talk to Jesus. We can all talk to Sai Baba. We can all talk to... So enough on that. What do I have? It's 1:34. Oh, I got to tell you about Nucleus. This was my little snow gnome. A friend had a party in 1994, a Christmas party. Michael here has to have his lights. If you come to my den in Cincinnati, Ohio, it's like Santa Claus threw up. Nothing is spared except the ceiling, only because I can't reach it. I have lights and Santas everywhere. I was at a friend's party. I walked back to the oak tree to greet the tree, and this little gnome just plopped right beside of me. I mean, he was like, yay, too. He was dressed in the red and green and suspenders. And I'm like, he says, I have things to tell you. He went on, he said, first of all, I thought he was a snow fairy. I said, well, be you a snow fairy? He said, no, be you an ass? And I was like, oh, boy, he's got a sense of humor. So he was talking about the stench and how snow purified, and that occasionally a snow gnome could make an appearance to certain mortals. Because as you know, a lot of you are earth angels, you're star beings, and just like, because I said, well, you're a gnome, you're a caretaker of the earth. He's like, well, that'd be rubbish. He had his own little language. He said, just as you have variety be spice of life. He says, I have penchant for philosophical issues. He went on this discourse where he talked about creator source and soul vision. And he said, if we align ourself, our energies with our higher self and the beings, that we could actually we could create planetary worlds. And I know some of that's in some of Dolores' books too, but this was like 20, I hadn't even heard of her. So when he went into that, I thought, I always say the bottom line is that, the teachings, whatever. So enough of that. The other thing, let's see, it's that we already talked about the future life, the stream, Oh, I talk about deeper hypnosis experiences. When I had read, again, Convoluted 1, Spirit told me to go to my files and find some of my, and I was looking for humor for a party I was actually singing at a nursing home, and I came upon hypnosis with Stephen Goodall in 1990. I was, whatever. He put me under a very deep trance, and he asked me where would I like to go. And just as though we're talking about the weather, I, of course, said, I want to go to the void. What is it like in the timeless void whence we began, when Spirit, and I went in this discourse how we were sparks. We were little light sparks swimming and dancing through, and it never bothered us. We didn't have emotions. They were created much later. So he went on this long discourse, and I was like, oh my God, like Dolores said, a lot of us have been sitting on this. How many of you are sitting on stories and dreams? And, it's like, let the portals open, because Mother Nature is tired of having to do all the work. She's kicking booty. So he asked me, oh, this was hilarious. He talk about the plants. He asked me, was there any point where I descended so low into condensed matter that I had no consciousness? And I said, just like talking about the weather, even when I was a rustling reed rippling on the waters, I could feel the touch of the breeze. I was never totally alienated from my consciousness or my soul. And I thought, oh man, I do sound like I'm smoking weird stuff. And then he asked me, would I like to go somewhere else? And he said, can you share a memory of some other form that you have experienced? Something of interest to you. What comes to mind? What form are you taking? I am the cat. I spring with quick movements. I am swift of step and movement. I jump about. I am the cat. I am strong. I am wise. I am still with Michael. That is why he fears me when he sees cats. He's a little bit disconcerted, for I'm that part of him that he has not completely accepted and experienced. Still he holds me in awe, but there is no reason, for I am part of him. I am the cat. I spring to life. I follow my instincts without the encumbrance of thinking. This you need to remember. And then I said, well, instead of Batman, I should be Catman. Meow! All right, that's enough. Any questions? That was awesome. I'm telling you, there were other out-of-bodies. Remember Kreskin, the amazing Kreskin? Anybody remember the mentalism? He did suggestion. A lot of us, in our early days, that was part of the beginning. He put me under in New York after he had done the typical hypnosis entertainment. And even then he said, you need to develop this. So a lot of us have our early lighter stories where certain things came in. Okay, does anybody want to ask anything? Because I'm going to try to get it back on schedule with the time-wise. Or make a comment. I mean, I could go on, but, I had Emerging with the Rock. And I really thought I was nuts till I, read that, again, people have had lives as rocks because they want to experience slow vibration. Those of us have been plants, a tree in Lemuria. So when a friend of mine said, you were an advanced sorcerer, I am actually going to entrust my silver cord into your care. I have to go to a higher plane. This sorcerer a black sorcerer stole a lot of my soul fragments. I have to back. Can you imagine how I felt? Your soul, your silver cord, when that snaps, you're dead. And sure enough, I did the exercise. The lights surround us. He went up and fought them. And I became aware of, the battles on the other planes. So, I say, if nothing else, it beats television. I joke, Joan of Arc, take everything away, don't take my voices. They always come in the white light. I will not do a channeling, a private reading, if it's not of the love and the purest intention. And so thank you very much. And, well...
You connect with all different types of beings, like aliens, and you talk to a gnome, and you have angels. Is that true for all?
Oh, yes. That's the illusion of separation. And that's why I say that we put the other L, we are the all one. That was one of my lessons, to have been a very lonely child and been in the foster homes and the horrible childhood. I was taught that, you can connect with, fairies. One of the first channelings I did was fairies. I did the gnomes and the fairies, and then I channeled animals, and then the Ascended Master started coming. Yes, so that, but there has to be a certain purity of intention, because there are dark energies too. As you know, the light and the dark is a part of it. And I always tell people, I had a lady do a crystal grid layout for me, the drumming and everything. It was so intense, I went to Costco and started levitating. I was leaving, I was going to check out. So, you've got to be careful when that kind of energy, when you start opening up the higher chakras, it's fine to have your greatest, highest energy levels go up, but if you're in the car driving and the lotus blossom kundalini starts going up to the crown chakra, that happened to me. I almost ran in a ditch. And, so we got to be careful, as Dolores would say, grounding. We must keep both feet on terra firma. So see my little baby, that's my little starch and potatoes and french fries, and, got to have my little vodka at night and talk to the spirits, but, don't rush it. But especially now, with all the Aquarian energy, with all the activations, they're right there. And it doesn't matter whether you see them in a dream, whether they come to you, a perceptual shift through a shamanic exercise. Some of us just maybe like the variety, or we're whatever. But it's so comforting. And I always say, someone said, well, you claim to channel me. How do we really know? I says, I don't. I don't care if it's Bozo the Clown. As long as Bozo's wanting to help and cares and can maybe say something to help empower someone, they don't have to feel trapped. There are answers, and they're in here. As Jesus, the kingdom of heaven is within here. So that's why I just keep going, because it's like, I don't care what you've been through. You know, someone's been murdered, someone's been raped. It's horrible, but there is a reason for things, and we can heal. You can heal your life, Louise Hay. I know all of us can. And then that light, this little light of mine. Okay.
If you are sitting down
Okay.
meditate,
Yes.
then always somebody is coming to you and you have a vision, and can you control who is coming to you?
Oh, yes. I believe that your higher self is already there, sort of like a protector type of thing. And as long as your habits, your lifestyle, you know, you're not doing a bunch of weird, crazy drugs, and because that can open holes in the chakras. But I do advise, most of us need a little coaching. I do. The inner teachers are, you know, real good, but I do believe that yes, you can. And you know, if it get to be too much. Spirits used to come to Mae West all hours of the night, and she had to run them off. She says, get away, I'm busy. Sometimes they get eager beaver, you know, they get really excited because they can be lonely too. Or they could be earthbound, and they might need, in the morning coffee, I have an earthbound spirit, a war child who came through time. And Mr. Divine said, well, you got to help her because my light is too bright. Just be careful. Be careful, because when you open up those real intense, it's going to bring up, you know, the dark side. Jung said we don't get enlightened by just imagining visions of light. We get enlightened by making the darkness conscious. We all have past life stuff. We all have whatever. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful to make that contact. I had other adventures. My aunt was put in a mental institution many, many years ago, and I knew she wasn't crazy. And one of my spirit guides took me, actually, she took me, Frazura, on a journey, like an astral trip. And we went into the mental institution, and they engaged in what they call head talk. They called it mind talk and head talk. And then my auntie started talking to me in my head. And I could hear her. She said, and you got to be careful, you know, who you talk to, because you could wind up in here like me. And she said, the thing is, everybody thinks I'm so lonely and depressed because I don't socialize. But she said, everybody out there is boring. Because she had, you know, because she's open, a lot of your very so-called crazies are just very opened up. I could do it in a heartbeat. You know, go in there and say, I channel spirits and Mother Mary and God, you know, put me in the nut house. Okay, anybody else?
I have the question that can you ask somebody to come to you, that in your meditation?
You mean a spirit guide, a departed loved one,
yes.
anybody?
Yes.
Sure. Does it mean they'll necessarily? You know, sometimes we have to, we can have a lot of clutter. That's why, you know, in the stillness and the meditation, some people are naturally very opened up. But if you're meditating consistently and you're asking, you know, out of the sincerity of your heart, yes, you will get, and it can be at the most inopportune moment. Like I said, I call them my John Revelations. I'm in the bathroom flossing, brushing my teeth, and I'll have a spirit come in. My Dresda came to me and she says, I am flame, I am fire, I set in motion the heart's desire. I ran out the other room. But she was amused, and she superimposed herself over a painting in an art museum. And she said, I'm not a discarnate, but the average person wouldn't see me. Some people would, those I would want to see me. So see, you may, and the spirits may have to do a little work too. Just because we're dead doesn't mean we know it all. There's a lot of dumb spirits. You know, if we carry that stuff with us in another life. Okay, anybody else? Good questions? No one else wants to comment? Or?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about, you were just talking about bringing or making the darkness conscious. As in, I guess, dealing with a shadow self or dark night of soul. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, good, Brave. That's a whole lecture in its own. Yeah, it's our fears, our limitations, our worries, our whatever, anything that's holding us back. How many of you have had a really great psychic reading and it resonated to your heart? It did not. You didn't manifest it. Did that ever happen to anybody? That's the shadow self. I was told by one of the top psychics in the world when I was almost 30 that I would write these books I'm writing, or channeling, really. It's really automatic. How many of you do automatic writing? Sherry Cortland will be talking about the automatic writing. She's wonderful, that kind of thing. But because if there's baggage, or as Mr. Devine said, bargage, he loves to play with words, you know, or my one little spirit, I said, well, they're going to think we're losing our mind because you're popping out a dream. She said, honey, I lost my mind a long time ago. She said it doesn't really serve us very well anyway. So that dark self, anything that would keep us from our bliss, that's the shadow side, and it can take many, many faces. Mine was the metaphor of death because I used to have a fear of dissolution. Even though I wanted to merge in the void of the oneness, the all great white light, there was still that kind of contrast. So that Jung, Carl Jung was very, very wise. You want to get more into the shadow self, the dark brothers, whatever you want to call it. Because anything, you know, I swore I was going to be singing in Carnegie Hall at 40. Life begins at 40. Why aren't I singing? Because I'm chicken. But you learn to do it anyway. I tell people in the psychic readings, what's the difference between a warrior, a hero, and a coward? A warrior, a hero, and a coward. It's mobility and action. I was scared to death to drive here. I'm from Cincinnati. I barely drive 10 miles a week in my car. I drove to St. Louis, stayed over, and got in a little, came here. I didn't want to drive. But, you do what you got to do because we're here to serve. Dolores has opened many doors, and God love her, she's still doing it. It's time that we help her. How many of you are working on books? I'm hearing books. More books, more books, more books, more books. Okay, anybody else?
I'm translating.
Awesome. Where are you from? You have a beautiful accent.
I'm translating Dolores Cannon's book to Hungarian.
Oh! When I was in the 8th grade, I think they taught us how to say go to hell in Hungarian. Is it Mini Pokeball? Anyway, I'm just being goofy. Wonderful. Hungarian. See, it's awesome. Anybody else? Okay.
We get a lot of people here from England.
Yeah. Well, are we out of time?
Yeah, you're still got time.
Well,
Michael, one of the most fascinating things I think about your work has to do with the morning coffee with God.
oh,
The whole concept, I want to know how you felt about that whenever it first happened.
it originally,
Like you thought was a dream?
no,
but
it
you
was a
come-
dream. No, this came to me, and I'd been away from my writing, stop, start. How many of you done that? You stop, you start, you stop, you start, and finally you get tired of it. I was living with my mother in Kentucky for a year. My older brother died. I came up to Cincinnati to do psychic readings. It's my livelihood. And I woke up in the morning, and I dreamt. I saw this man with this ball cap on, and I saw like Boston socks, and I said, who are you? This was a dream. And he says, I am God, and we're going to write a book. That was a dream. And then the dreams continued, but they started weaving towards, so I was bored at that time. I wanted something mind-blowing like I'm praying for now. I want something else. Watch what you ask for. But no, that was a dream.
Careful what you ask for.
But he told me, he said, one of the things I'm going to help teach you is that there are many, many facets of dreaming. This is a type of dream. The dreamer dreams the dream. When I read that in convolute, I about fell over. Because I remember as a child touching my arm, and this is not me. I'm not here. I would close my eyes and say, when I open them, I won't be here anymore. So it was a feeling of gratitude because it's like the subconscious is at it too. We don't have to do all the work. The higher self can kick in at any moment. I was ready to commit suicide after an unrequited lover moved away. I was so in the throes of that. At 5 in the morning, I woke up and went into direct automatic writing. I call it a spiritual epiphany. That's in the new book. And I channeled God or the higher self and talked about Taoism, the love that transcends. Your lover will see the light, but the time. So remember that. Sometimes if you're really funk, that can be the prelude. As I say, the morning is preceded by the darkest moment of the night. Remember the poem, Don't Quit? Everybody should have the poem called Dark. It's that moment you think it's the end.
But the idea of smelling coffee in cooking in the kitchen and coming
my God.
Downstairs.
Oh,
and there's
percolating,
somebody
and we
sitting
had
at the
honey
table.
vanilla, we had mocha, we had cappuccino, we do all that. And that's why I say, I just didn't know where one began and the other ended. And that's why a lot of people that read it asked me, because I sent it to several publishers before her. They looked at it, they liked the idea, and several said, is this real or just a dream? And I said, to be honest, I know it began as a dream, but now I don't really know, and I don't care, because when I read the book, I write for myself. when I read these stories, I'm in awe that, not me personal, because I think the universal God is in all, we are that. I'm you, you're me, we are the world. So that's why I make myself get up here and do this talk. I don't like giving talks because I would rather sit and channel, which I did in 2009. Mary Messon, we had the tornado in Huntsville, and they came in, they said, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. We knew we weren't going to blow up there. That was, we had the 2009 when we had the tornadoes.
Oh, we've had strange energies happen at these conferences.
Well, that was a tornado.
Let's hope it behaves itself this time.
Yeah. We had to evacuate. Remember?
It's a buildup of energy when we get this many people, like-minded people, that we've had very strange things happen. And that was one when there was a tornado just over the hotel.
Yep.
And everybody had to evacuate.
And Spirit said that they had the divas and the grid workers helping us all out, and that's why they had the joke about the answers blowing in the wind. I knew we weren't going to get blown away.
But this has happened before when I was in the Middle East. We suddenly had a big dust storm come up right around the hotel I was speaking at. In Africa, we had a thunderstorm. At the time of the year, they don't have any rain.
Yeah.
And the thunderstorm was right over the hotel, nowhere else. So we do generate energy when we're all together like this. So don't be surprised if something unusual happens during this conference.
And when you open
anyway.
up, they can just show up in the middle of nowhere. But if they come on too strong, you can ask them to back off. And, you people are in the light. The dark shadows aren't chasing you. You're only going.
No, but it's the idea that we generate such positive energy that it makes even the weather phenomena act up. And even in my classes, we've had things happen that are not supposed to happen.
Well, when I was on your radio show, we got all this weird noise, and Dolores said, Michael, I think you just blew the fuses. And I could hear these strange noises, and they were talking last night about the noises where you hear it on one end but not the other. Oh, yeah,
I have a weekly radio show. You probably all know that anyway. That goes all over the world.
I've had tape readings. People say, oh, my God, I went home, and I know that I taped that reading for them. It's like, well, maybe Spirit didn't want it taped. What am I going to do? They just didn't tape it all. Or sometimes I hear like a little screechy noise or something in the middle of it.
But I'm used to working with this. It's a wonderful, positive energy. I see what it can do. So when you tap into this, nothing is impossible. That's what you've got to understand.
That's why I like the beyond the unexplained, because
nothing is impossible once you learn to work with this energy.
And it's empowering. Every story in there, when I read them, I'm in tears because it makes me think of a better place and that there are worlds that we can link with all over the cosmos, and we can do some of that. Are we done?
Well, you got a minute?
Got 1 minute. Anybody got a quickie for a minute?
But anyway, he has lots of information and stories, and I think those books have an interesting angle, an interesting twist, that maybe you'll be able to identify with it when you read them.
And now I've been told, I was told, true confessions, that I was a minor player in the destruction of Atlantis. Now what the heck's that mean? And I woke up one morning at 3 a.m, and this was a dream. I saw these sorcerer scientists with these scalpels, and they were actually extracting the strands from the pituitary and the pineal, and they said they were seeking lost knowledge, immortality information. And I wrote that as a fantasy novel. The publisher went under. I got my rights back. And then Spirit said, that are memories of Atlantis. I have not written those books because I've been afraid. But who would be in a position, those of us who know what the workings and the different, because it was so many hundreds of thousands of years. So see, some of these callings, now I'm going to write them. Whether they're published, I don't care. But it's like, because I want to go home. I don't want to come back here. They say this is halfway. There's worlds in there are so advanced or so, they wouldn't even, some of the star kids can't even handle it because there's so much density and the little rainbows and crystals, some of them, they wind up putting them on pills and stuff. It's because they're very tender, they're very sensitive. And that's why some of us, it's okay to be a hermit. The quiet time, it's really needful. Okay, we need to stop. Spirit says I've said enough.
But here he's talking about God speaking to him. I think it's tomorrow we're going to have another one where Jesus spoke to him.
Yes.
And that's Henry Michelson, the book, And Jesus Said, a Conversation. So see, these things may sound weird, but we're used to them.
We're in good company.
So here we can open our minds and accept them, where everybody out there thinks we're nuts. We know we're not.
And no two are going to be alike. Mother Mary, Saint Germain do not come to me. They're doing a type of mind melding, a type of telepathic transfusion of energies. They're not going to say, and people that say I'm the only one, a very famous writer said, I'm the only one who can channel the ascended masters. That's baloney. But mine, I always say there must be humor. Because, life is a joke on the one hand. So, but just know that, if I'm channeling Bashar or Hilarion, it's going to be, unless the medium is so advanced and trained that they can completely get out of the way.
Maybe we can say we're the only normal people.
There you go. Thank you very much.